Hi, folks. This is Bruce Hutchin, and hundreds of thousands of people know me as the host of Whitetail Rendezvous podcast, where I've had over 600 guests in the last 4 years. In August of this year will be 4 years. We launched in August 31st of 2015. So it's been a tremendous ride, and it's not over yet. And what's happening now, and what has been happening since the first of the year, is I've created a course and I've created a membership site. And I'm going to roll out on July 9th of 2019 at 9 a.m. the founders portion of Deer Hunting Institute. Deer Hunting Institute is going to be all about helping you become a smarter hunter. My tagline is want to become a smarter hunter. How, when, and where. And in the course, there's 13 modules, but we're not going to talk about the course today. I'm going to introduce you to Bruce Hutchin. I'm retired. I started whitetail hunting in 1966 along the Belleville River on the Wool River Farm with Dick Rogers, Harry Shear, and the rest of the bunkhouse crew. And since that time, I've been able to travel and hunt from Ungava Bay up north of Montreal all the way to Lake Iliamna in Alaska and parts in between, both states and provinces. Why do I hunt? I hunted because of the challenge. I hunted because I was in corporate America and I look forward to that stress reliever. I look forward to getting unplugged from my pager, from having to, spend 2 hours every night talking to my sales reps. Yes, I was very successful, but the biggest thing that I looked forward to was coming home to Colorado. I lived in Colorado since 1985. I've lived other places since then, but I've always come back to Colorado. That's where my home base is now. And when you think about corporate America, you think about your job, you think about all the things that you have to do to take care of your family and to move your career forward. I found hunting and fishing as a relief. And that's why I did a tremendous amount of fly fishing. I had actually combined my fly fishing with my hunting, as places would allow. We were way up north in Kuujjuaq, flew out of Kuujjuaq, and we went into caribou camp. And I can remember standing on a rock with my buddy, and he would keep the rifle or the bow handy, and one of us would catch 3 to 5 pound brook trout in the fall all day long. And we were at a crossing for the caribou, and we never get a caribou, but we caught fish just all day long, and it was just an amazing memory. And that's what hunting to me is. It's the memories. You can see in the background, I've got a turkey taken in Wyoming, I've got a wolf taken in BC, and a buck taken in Iowa. And those just are some of the trophies that I have. I had to scale down from my home to a condo, so a lot of my trophies were sold. I sold them off or gave them away. But that doesn't matter because I still have the memories. And that's one thing people are missing, in my opinion, about hunting. It's just the memories that we create, the camaraderie we have, the relationship that we build. Dick Rogers took me first to his farm along the Bear River in 1966. He and I will hunt this year, and it'll be our 53rd year. Yeah, it'll be a 54th year that we'll be hunting and staying at the bunkhouse. So, folks, that's a long time to have a relationship with a person based, yes, on whitetail hunting, because we get together every single year to do it, but we've been friends that long, and long-time friendships are priceless. And so, Dick Rogers, shout out to you for a priceless relationship that I've had with you and your family, because the Wool River Farm was owned by Dick's sister and Rita, and in Leicester. And the first time I came there and sat at their table, and I joined their family, and that was, like I said, 54 years ago. That's huge because my family, I basically left home when I was 17 years old, went away to college, went in the service, and I never really lived at home again. Yes, we'd visit and do those things, but basically at 17, I left and with very little money, and I lived life. I went through life's journey, and that's another thing that Deer Hunting Institute's going to talk about and bring out, and that's what the podcast. If you've listened to any of the Whitetail Rendezvous podcasts, you hear that. You hear about the journey. You hear about the people. You hear about the stories. Well, I'm creating stories now with Deer Hunting Institute because each of you have a story, have a question about how to become a better hunter. You might be a beginner hunter, a seasonal hunter, or a 365 hunter. Each phase has a definite need, or you might be somebody that wants to get into hunting. Well, Deer Hunting Institute is for you, no matter what phase you're in. We call them success paths because I'm going to be the guide. You're the hero. You're the person that's going to ask me, Bruce, how do I do this? How do I do that? When do I do this? When do I do that? How do I, place my stands, mock scrapes, all of that. And that's great. But today I want you to know about my faith. As a young child, we had, I don't want to use the word dysfunctional because it really wasn't that, but it just wasn't, leave it to Beaver type of family, period. And so early on, I had to reach out to somebody, and because I was confused as a young boy, going, this doesn't seem right, doesn't fit right. And that's when I began my relationship with God. I didn't meet Jesus for a long time after because I had God, and that was it. I didn't need anybody else, I didn't think. And until one day later, when I was in my 30s, he made it known to me through another person that you need to know my son Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And I had gone to church and been in the pew and gave a couple of bucks and did some volunteering, and like millions of other people call them Christians, but I didn't have that relationship. I didn't have that real relationship with the Trinity, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And so I went and by myself, I just said, Jesus, come into my life. I need you. And here's the interesting thing about that. I do speak in tongues. I have a prayer language, but probably 7, 8 years earlier, I had been in Wyoming, and I had it was 1977. I went on my first antelope mule deer hunt, and I shot my first buck late in the afternoon. It was a small 4-pointer, and I had seen bigger bucks, but it was my first trip out west, and it was like, oh my goodness, there's a deer, boom, and he was dead. And I went up to him and just said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And all of a sudden, I thought I was speaking Crow Indian or Apache, or I didn't know, and I'm speaking in this language that I had no idea. I was so happy, and it was just gushing and flowing out of me. And I went, what the heck? Where did that come from? And there I was by myself, getting out my first deer, and giving thanks to God. And I didn't realize that until years later. But I share that because one of the things that's missing, in my opinion, on social media is reality and being transparent with the people. Some people will hear this and they'll go, I'll never listen to another Whitetail Rendezvous podcast again. And that's okay. It really is. Other people will be offended because I mentioned God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and then I speak in tongues. And there's some people, even though they read the Bible, they don't believe in tongues. Okay, fine. That's good for me. I'm well with that. because we're all different, we're all individuals, and we're not all going to agree on everything, and sometimes nothing. But when you're a hunter, you're on common ground. When you sit at that campfire, I don't care if you're a gazillionaire or push a broom. It absolutely doesn't matter. And I've been in enough campfires, nobody really cared. Why? Because you were in that circle. You were at that campfire. You were sharing parts of your life, parts of your hunts, parts of your memory with the men around it. And that's what's missing. I have a good friend, his name's Greg Matthews, coming out with a book called Wild Awakening on Simon Schuster's, going to be released this week. So here's a shout out for you, Greg. Greg got attacked by a grizzly bear in Alaska, and he was hunting moose with his bow, and he called in a grizzly bear. Basically, he was misting with cow moose estrus. His brother was about 50 yards behind him, couldn't really see him because he was calling. So it was a perfect setup, but he called in a grizzly bear, and the grizzly bear ripped him apart. Greg should be dead, but he didn't. He survived. Between him and his brother, they killed the bear, and but now he's a mile in a swamp, muskeg, tamarack, everything that can get nasty in Alaska, and he had to walk a mile back to their boat that they had beached. And fortunately, they got some people passing by because they saw the fire, and a helicopter came in, and he's alive today. So people started asking him about the experience, and the story was that yes, the bear was horrendous and almost killed him, but he had been carrying around since he was 10 years old that his father left him. No, my father didn't leave me. That's not part of my story. It's part of his stories. But the thing that Greg realized from 10 to age 50, 40 years, he'd been carrying along this pain. And no, Deer Hunting Institute isn't about solving your personal problems. Could be. We might have a discussion. But what it is, it's an opportunity to take hunting, reach common ground with other people, and build a community where at some time you might raise your hand, you might text somebody, you might PM somebody and say, hey, could you help me? Could you just listen to my story? And if Deer Hunting Institute builds that community, then it's going to be successful. Why? Because men need that. And again, Greg's book's coming out, Wild Awakening. Get it, read it. If you don't like it, let Greg know. Reach out to him. But it has a message. And so I'm taking that and pivoting and saying, okay, the message here in Deer Hunting Institute, it's the same thing. We're going to take hunting because we're all passionate about it. And it's good to be passionate about something. And then we're going to start a community that people can share, just like I'm sharing today, being very transparent. And because we do that, then it'll grow. Because if I help you, if I'm your guide, if I help you learn how to become a better hunter, how, when, and where, how to hunt, where to hunt, and when to hunt. How to hunt's hard. Where to hunt's getting tougher and tougher every day to find a place to hunt. And when to hunt, do I just hunt 3 days a year? I have some great friends that's all I do. Friends Jeff and Alex and Dan, they might only hunt 3 days a year. During a rut, they'll pick the time. It might be pre-rut, post-rut. It might be in December when the bucks are on the food. They know exactly where they have to go. And if there's still a big buck in the area, they'll go there. So there's a lot of information going to be made available. And the stories aren't about me. The stories about the people that I know, my guests, over 600 guests, and then the people that join with me on the deer hunting journey. So I wanted to share this morning a little bit about Bruce Hutchin, creator of Deer Hunting Institute, and invite you on July 9th at 9 a.m., become a member to buy the course, 13-module course about hunting, when, where, and how. And then in August, September, I'm going to have a soft launch to a membership. The founding members are already grandfathered in. And then in August and September, there'll be a soft launch. In January, there'll be a hard launch to Deer Hunting Institute membership. So with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing me share some things, my vision about what I hope Deer Hunting Institute will become.